We're in Somerset House for the exhibition Rite of Passage, which is a solo show by the French-Moroccan photographer Leila Alaoui. Leila Alaoui was a talented, poetic photographer who shot reportage and shot portraiture, who died tragically at the age of 33 on an assignment in 2016. But her photography lives on, and her storytelling lives on. Any photography exhibition ultimately is about the way that a photographer looks at the world. And we absolutely see that in this case with these works. There are 3 sets of work by Leila Alaoui in this exhibition. Each of these projects, I think, invites us as a viewer to go on a journey, to undergo a rite of passage. We start off the exhibition in room 1 with the Moroccans. The Moroccans, I think, is Leila Alaoui's most well-known series of works. It's an extraordinary series, in fact, of portraits that she conducted of Moroccan people dressed in traditional clothing. She travelled across quite a lot of Morocco to small towns, to rural areas, and she set up a mobile studio and just invited people to have their photograph taken. One of the striking elements of the Moroccans as a series is that the photographs are printed pretty much at life size, so that you're looking directly into the eyes of these individuals. Looking around the room, you're immersed in an idea of people and place, of Morocco seen through the eyes of Moroccan people. The beauty of this is that Leila Alaoui has stripped away context. We have to imagine the social and the economic or the cultural circumstances under which these people represent themselves in front of the camera. The series is about identity, it's about belonging, it's about an idea of Moroccanness. Room 2 contains 2 bodies of work by Leila Alaoui, Pasara and Natreen. When I look at her work, I'm really struck by the condition of empathy that she manages to engage with each of the subjects that she photographs. So if we look closer at the series that she created called Pasara, which looks at Moroccan and Algerian and North African people who are trying and sometimes failing and sometimes returning to go from the edges of North Africa to Europe across the kind of short stretch of Atlantic that separates North Africa and Europe. You see these photos, I think, of astonishing poignancy. Photos of people suspended in this state or place between trying to get somewhere and trying to leave somewhere. There's a sense here that reportage, objective truth, isn't enough. That this isn't about capturing the singular reality of individuals. This is really about talking about sensibility. This is really about talking about mood and tone and loss and longing and all the really complicated experiences that take people beyond their home to the edge of a potential new life. All the frustrations involved in that, all the hopes involved in that. And I think she manages to capture those tensions with an incredibly light hand, with an incredible deftness and nuance and poetic tonality. Latrine is a set of photographs taken in a refugee camp in Syria. This was a commission that Leila Alaoui carried out for a charity. These are more, in a way, they're more straightforward social documentary and reportage photographs. But when I look at these photographs, the thing that really comes across is not just the setting that individuals are in, but the way she manages to convey this extraordinary clarity of portraiture. So many times we see people looking into the camera with a real intensity of gaze. And I think the success of this as a project is to do with the connection, the empathic connection that Leila Alaoui makes between herself, her subject, and us, as a viewer of that, looking at these photographs, it's very hard to look away. The third and final room in the exhibition, Devil's Island, is a film work that Leila Alaoui was working on and unfortunately didn't complete before she died. This is a fragment of that work which focuses on a Renault factory in France and uses that as a way to think more widely about the legacy of empire and colonialism in France and France's ambivalent relationship to immigration. In the centre of the film are immigrants who worked in the Renault factory themselves, returning back to the premises of the building that's now shut. Across the course of the film, we hear the voices of different French politicians at different times welcoming immigrants and other times castigating and blaming immigrants for a corruption of French society as they perceive that to be.
Aujourd'hui, la situation créée en France par la présence d'une forte population immigrée en période de crise économique est porteuse d'un risque grave qu'il ne faut pas se dissimuler.
Devil's Island, I think, is a really poignant piece of work. What I find interesting is that Leila Alaoui has taken part in a conversation about empire, about legacy, about history, about colonialism that I think remains really important today. You know, here in Britain, different debates that we have about statues and monuments and how you remember empire. All of these things are very live and very real and very current in Britain, in the same way that clearly they were and remain in France during the time that Leila Alaoui was making this film. So for me, although these dialogues are taking place in another country, they resonate absolutely with some of the questions that I think about, and I think a lot of people think about here now in Britain. I think and I hope that we might leave this exhibition in a small way by seeing the world as Leila Alaoui did, by seeing the world with the nuance and the sensitivity and the insight and really the poetic gaze that she managed to bring to her photography of social reportage, of portraiture, but really photography of lyricism, of emotional depth and emotional engagement.